The words hit me like ice water. Brooke, your contract's been terminated, effective immediately. Thomas Reed didn't even look up from his screen when he said it. My stomach twisted into knots. I thought he was joking, some weird test or prank. Then I saw security standing behind him. My laptop screen froze mid-click, the cursor blinking over the campaign deck I'd spent 3 weeks perfecting. He slid a manila envelope across his desk like it might bite him. "We appreciate your contributions," he mumbled, still staring at his monitor. His voice was flat, rehearsed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But my throat closed up and nothing came out except a shaky breath. The walk to my desk felt like a funeral march. The entire office went silent. Keyboards stopped clicking. Conversations died mid-sentence. My co-workers suddenly found their computer screens fascinating. Nobody met my eyes. I packed my things into a cardboard box, photos, notebooks, the coffee mug my team gave me last Christmas. Someone whispered behind me, she didn't see it coming. They were right, I didn't. My hands trembled as I grabbed my coat. Every footstep echoed down that polished hallway. The elevator doors couldn't open fast enough. When they finally did, I stepped inside and pressed the button. The doors closed, and that's when I finally let myself breathe. My reflection stared back at me in the mirrored elevator walls. Mascara smudged under red eyes, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I looked like someone I barely recognized. The elevator hummed downward floor by floor. I whispered the words I couldn't say upstairs. My director terminated my contract without notice. Saying it out loud made it real, too real. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom asking how my day was going. I couldn't answer. The elevator dinged. Ground floor. The doors opened to the lobby, bright and cold. I walked through those glass doors for what I thought was the last time. I was wrong. "My name is Brooke Larson." That's the headline you'd see online, right? "Woman gets fired without warning." But this isn't the story of a woman who got fired and disappeared. This is the story of the woman who took her company back. This is about what happens when someone underestimates you so badly that they hand you the keys to their kingdom without realizing it. Thomas Reed thought he was getting rid of a problem. What he actually did was create his worst nightmare. And 2 weeks later, when my name appeared on acquisition papers, he finally understood his mistake. But by then, it was already too late. Let me back up. The night before he fired me, I was still in the office at 10:43. My desk lamp was the only light left on the entire floor. Thomas had texted me around 9. "Don't stay too late, Brooke, get some rest." I smiled at my screen and typed back, "Just finishing the client deck. Almost done." What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that he'd already downloaded my presentation. He'd already sent it to the board of directors. And he'd already removed my name from every single slide. While I worked late perfecting his stolen property, he was home celebrating his upcoming promotion. The next morning, that same presentation won us a $1 million client. I sat in the back of the conference room and watched Thomas stand at the front, all charm and confidence. He clicked through my slides, my research, my strategy, my designs. "Our team really pulled together on this one," he said, gesturing broadly. He never once looked at me. Not once. The client loved it. They signed on the spot. After the meeting, Thomas shook hands with everyone. When he got to me, his grip was weak, his smile fake. "Great team effort," he said. Then he walked away. That was the moment I should have known something was wrong. Over the next week, strange things started happening. Projects disappeared from my shared drive. Files I'd created suddenly had other people's names attached. When I asked about it, I got vague answers. "Oh, we're just reorganizing. System glitch probably. HR is updating permissions." But it wasn't random, it was systematic. My name was being erased, slowly, carefully, like someone was preparing the ground for something bigger. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I was imagining things, but my gut knew better. My gut was screaming, I just didn't listen loud enough. Then came the complaint. A client complaint, they said. An email chain appeared in my inbox with accusations about missed deadlines and poor communication. I read it 3 times, confused. I'd never even worked with that client. When I looked closer at the forwarded emails, I recognized Thomas's writing style, the phrases he always used, the way he structured sentences. It was him. He'd fabricated the entire thing. I tried explaining to HR, but they cut me off. "The decision's already been made, Brooke. We're sorry." That's when I knew this wasn't about performance. This was a setup, and I'd walked right into it. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes after they escorted me out. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I stared at the building through my windshield, the same building I'd given 2 years of my life to. The same building where I'd worked weekends, missed birthdays, skipped vacations. For what? To be thrown away like garbage. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Instead, I felt something sharper, clearer. A cold, focused anger that cut through the shock. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I drove home in silence, no music, no podcasts, just the sound of traffic and my own breathing. When I got to my apartment, I sat on the floor with my laptop and opened a blank document. I titled it simply, Evidence. Then I started writing. Everything, every project I'd led, every campaign I'd rescued from disaster, every intern I'd trained, every client I'd saved, not for revenge, not yet, just documentation, proof, receipts. Because if there's one thing my father taught me, it's this: never start a fight without knowing exactly what weapons you have. And I was about to build an arsenal. That first night I barely slept. I kept replaying every conversation, every meeting, every email, looking for clues I'd missed. By morning I had a 40-page document detailing 2 years of work, my work, with timestamps, file versions, email chains, everything. I saved 3 backup copies in different places. Then I made coffee, sat back down on my apartment floor and asked myself the most important question: what now? I could find another job, send out resumes, start over somewhere else, or I could do something different, something nobody would expect. I chose option 2. I turned one of my old internal strategy memos into a public post. I shared it on professional networks with a simple title: How to Fix a Failing Product Launch in 72 Hours. No company names. No bitterness, no blame, just pure strategy and execution. I hit publish and closed my laptop, expecting maybe a few likes from old colleagues. I checked back 2 hours later, 3,000 likes, 500 shares, comments from industry leaders calling it brilliant and required reading. Someone wrote, "Why aren't you running your own firm?" I stared at that comment for a long time. Then I smiled. The messages started flooding in. Former clients, people I'd worked with on projects, industry contacts I hadn't heard from in months. One message stood out. It was from Marcus Chen. "Sorry, Marcus Sullivan, a client from my second big campaign. Brooke, were you the one behind the Ridgeway turnaround? We always suspected but were never sure. We'd love to talk." I wrote back immediately. We scheduled a call. During that call, he said something that changed everything. "You know, when someone gets let go, it's usually the company's loss, not the person's." He was right. Thomas hadn't fired me, he'd freed me. 3 days later, I registered my own consultancy, Larson Strategies LLC. I rebuilt every framework I'd ever created. I cleaned up my templates, I organized my case studies, and I created something new, something I called the turnaround system. It was the same methodology that had saved 6 failing campaigns at my old company, the same system Thomas had taken credit for, except now it had a name. My name. I built a simple website in 1 weekend. Posted my first case study on Monday. By Wednesday I had 4 consultation requests. By Friday I had my first paying client. One of my strategy breakdowns caught someone's attention. His name was Julian Pierce and he worked for a private equity firm specializing in brand acquisitions. He sent me a message that seemed random at first. "Would you ever consider leading a portfolio acquisition?" I read it 3 times, confused. I wasn't sure what he meant, but something told me to respond. "I'm listening," I typed back. He called me 20 minutes later. "We acquire underperforming brands and turn them around," he explained. "We need someone who understands broken systems from the inside. Your posts suggest you're that person." I agreed to meet him for coffee. That meeting changed everything. Meanwhile, back at my old company, things were falling apart. A friend who still worked there, Nina from accounting, kept me updated. Thomas was panicking. He'd called 3 emergency meetings about my public posts. HR sent out a memo warning employees about sharing confidential company knowledge online. Nina forwarded it to me. I read it twice, then laughed. Every single example I'd shared was from projects I'd done before I ever worked there. They were mine. He had no claim to them, no legal standing, nothing, and he knew it. That's why he was scared. Julian called again 2 weeks after our coffee meeting. "Brooke, I need to ask you something sensitive," he said. His voice was serious. "We're looking at acquiring several underperforming companies in your industry. One of them happens to be your former employer." I went quiet. He continued, "We need someone who understands their internal systems, their workflows, their weaknesses." He paused. "You're the only person who fits that description." My heart was pounding. "What exactly are you asking?" I said. "I'm asking if you want to help us acquire your old company and potentially run it." I almost dropped my phone. He wanted proof first. Evidence that I actually knew what I claimed to know. I didn't hesitate, I sent him everything. Time-stamped project drafts with my name in the metadata, internal memos I'd written, strategy documents with my digital signature, client emails thanking me specifically for solving their problems. He went silent for 3 full minutes after I sent the files, then he spoke and his voice had changed. It was respectful now, almost reverent. "Brooke, this is extraordinary. You built their entire system." "I know," I said. "That's why they can't function without it." He promised to call back within 48 hours. My posts kept spreading. Industry publications started reaching out for interviews. Other companies offered me consulting contracts, and my old colleagues kept messaging me in secret. "He's losing it," Nina wrote. "He brings you up in every meeting now. He's obsessed." Another former coworker sent me a screenshot of an internal email where Thomas called me a disgruntled former employee spreading misinformation. I saved that screenshot. I saved everything. Because I knew what was coming, and I wanted to remember every moment of his panic, every moment he realized he'd made the biggest mistake of his career. Julian's partner wanted to meet me in person. We met at a downtown restaurant, private room, expensive menu, serious atmosphere. Her name was Victoria Cross and she was direct. "Brooke, we want you to come on board as principal consultant for the acquisition. You'd have equity, partnership potential, full authority over operations post-acquisition." I leaned back in my chair. "You know they terminated my contract without cause, right?" Victoria smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a shark. "All the better," she said. "It means you have no loyalty conflicts, and it means they have no idea what's coming." I signed the consulting agreement right there at the table. Word started leaking. Corporate gossip travels fast, especially in small industries. Nina texted me one afternoon, "Emergency meeting just got called. Thomas is freaking out. He keeps saying someone's trying to sabotage him." I didn't respond, I just smiled. Another message came 10 minutes later. "Oh my God, he just found out who's leading the acquisition review." Then, he said your name and went completely pale. Then, "Brooke, what did you do?" I turned off my phone and went back to reviewing financial documents. I had work to do, and I wanted every detail perfect when the moment finally came. The day before the meeting, I pressed my navy blazer. I printed all my documents. I organized my notes. I rehearsed my talking points in the mirror. Not because I was nervous, I wasn't. I knew this company better than anyone alive. I knew every weakness, every broken process, every hidden problem. I knew where the bodies were buried because I'd been the one trying to fix everything while Thomas took credit. No, I rehearsed because I wanted this perfect. I wanted to walk in with complete confidence and unshakable composure. I wanted him to see exactly what he'd thrown away, and I wanted him to know he'd done it to himself. The conference room was on the 15th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, polished table, leather chairs. Julian and Victoria were already seated when I arrived, so was the company's legal team, and so was Thomas. He walked in, saw me sitting next to Julian, and stopped dead. The color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. His mouth opened slightly. No words came out. Julian gestured to my chair. "Thomas, you know Brooke Larson. She'll be joining as principal partner and operational consultant for the transition." Thomas just stood there. Finally, he managed a single nod. His jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. The acquisition folder slid across the table toward me. My name was already printed on the signature line. Principal Partner Larson Strategies LLC. My hand didn't shake when I picked up the pen. I took my time. I read every line, every clause, every detail. Thomas watched me the whole time. I could feel his eyes burning into the side of my face. When I finally signed, the pen seemed heavier than it should. Each letter of my name felt like a victory. 2 weeks ago, he'd handed me a termination notice without even looking at me. Now I was signing papers that gave me control over everything he'd built his career on. I walked out of that building into afternoon sunlight. Same city, same streets, but everything felt different. The sky looked clearer. The air felt lighter. I didn't call a press conference. I didn't post about it online. I didn't gloat or celebrate publicly. I just walked to my car, got in, and drove home in comfortable silence. Thomas lost everything he'd built by stepping on the wrong person. He fired me because he was threatened by my competence. And in doing so, he handed me the perfect opportunity to prove exactly why he should have been afraid. I didn't get revenge. Revenge is messy and temporary. I got something much better. I got ownership.